Hi guys, and welcome to another, what are we calling these? Podcasts. Yeah. So, this is the third one. My god, why am I still doing this? I have no idea. Yeah, so, quite a few questions have come into me this week, and they are going to be the topics that I'm talking about, so I will do my best to try and answer them as we go along. But please remember to still keep on sending in your questions. On Twitter, I am @BevLive. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/VivaLaBev, and everything is great. So yes, so it's been quite a weird week for me since we last spoke. I did a gig on Friday and Saturday last week, so that was a lot of fun. I think my favourite one has to be the Saturday night, because I was slightly worse for wear, shall we say politely, and it was just really good. It was a wedding, and we think there was probably about 150 that actually turned up, and they actually stayed till the end of the night, and it was one of the rare parties that I do these days where I can actually play all the cheesy wedding-y stuff and have the dance floor full all night. It was just it was how I love to do the parties. It was especially good at the end because, like I said, there were still loads of people left, and the groom had come over to me towards the end and said, you know, for the last song, can you please play You'll Never Walk Alone? Which, for those of you that don't know, it's a song which is heavily associated with the Liverpool Football Club. So I got on the mic, and the second to last song had faded out, and I said, right, okay, you know, that's it for the night. Thank you very much for coming. This is going to be the last song. If you don't like it, it was requested for by the groom, go and see him. So I started off the track, and I think the first sentence in it is something like, when you walk, and literally as soon as that was said, the whole room just started cheering, all these hands went in the air, and then literally everyone gathered onto the dance floor. And for those of you who haven't seen any like of the blogs that I do at the discos and told you about the technical stuff, the sound system that I carry runs at 500 watts a side, so it's 1,000 watts in total. Now, if you keep in mind, the average car speaker is about 20 watts, and I'm running at 1,000. So yeah, so the music was on as loud as my system would have it, and you could still hear the people singing over that. It was just, I absolutely loved them moments. It was so sweet. It was really good. And then, of course, later on in the week, on Wednesday, my favourite video of Bev and Ian went up, which is the awards show, and there has actually been quite a good response to that as well. I really enjoyed doing that one. It was just so much fun. And next week is the behind the scenes of the awards show, because we kind of shot two videos in once. It actually took us, I think from start to finish, it probably took us around about 2 hours to film both videos. Because as you probably noticed with the awards show, there is a lot of voiceover, which all had to be edited. Then you have to put the voiceover to the music. Then you've got to spend a lot of time matching the audio to the video, because that video of me and Ian sat on the couch is actually one long video, which I think is about 20 minutes long or something like that. And you've got to time it right, so from when the voiceover starts to when it says who's won the award has got to be exactly right, because you want the person reacting when the voiceover says this person's won the award, because at the time of recording there was no voiceover, we couldn't hear it or anything like that. So it's just really good. So I really enjoyed it. But apart from that, it's been a weird week for news as well. This is kind of where some of the questions have come in. The first one I'm going to start with is North Korea, because obviously quite a few news agencies have been bringing, their whole threats up again and that sort of thing. And this is where I've kind of got to be honest with my opinion on this, because part of me actually does have a bit of sympathy for North Korea. And let me tell you why. There is a lot of restrictions placed on North Korea. Whether you agree with it being a dictatorship or not, there is a lot of restrictions placed on them by the likes of America, the United Kingdom, basically the West. Now, these restrictions basically involve things like power supply, any weapons that they can have. It's basically trying to control them, which, for those of you who haven't kind of stepped back and looked at what the West actually do, the West is actually a very controlling place. And not a lot of people realise that. Everyone's like, oh, America's great, and America will sort out this and it'll sort out that. And it's actually like, well, no, America is just doing it because they can, A statistic that got put to me a while back was saying that America has some sort of army base in, I think it was something like 249 different places around the world. And these are places like countries like Australia. What the fuck's Australia going to do to America? But America has actually got, armed people there. And it's like, well, what the fuck's this all about? So the whole North Korea thing, a really interesting guy on YouTube actually put it in a really simple way, and he said, you know what? The restrictions that are on North Korea and the way that North Korea is reacting, if America had the same restrictions put on it that North Korea has, America would be doing exactly the same thing, but probably a little bit quicker. And it's something that I actually can't disagree with. If someone put a no-fly zone over America, you really think America's going to stick to that? Hell no. America would be out there with the nuclear bombs within a couple of minutes. It's just absolutely stupid. So the amount of people turning around and saying about how, North Korea teaches the children this, and they say this about the West, and they say that, and it's like, well, who the fuck are you to say what North Korea teaches their children? You've never been to North Korea. You've never been in a North Korea class. How the fuck do you know what North Korea is teaching their children? We genuinely can't say, and it's not like it's easy for a tourist to get into North Korea either. It's really not. But that said, North Korea is putting a threat to another part of the world, and I don't like seeing countries doing this sort of thing. It's something that I completely disagree with. I never think that there is, in instance like this, I don't think there is actually a calling for war of some sort. If you've got someone like Hitler, then yeah, okay, I can kind of go with the war thing on that, because that's the only way that he's going to listen, right? But North Korea, there is other ways that they could be going around doing what they do. And it's quite a sad thing as well, the fact that it's gone to the way it has done with North Korea, because we all actually thought when Kim Jong-il took over, we were told, this could be, the turning of a new era for the country, and it could do really well and this sort of stuff. And as we're seeing now, it hasn't. So it's just a little bit, it's just a little bit kind of awkward. So a lot of people have been questioning this week kind of my stance on North Korea, and I think I've just basically explained it to you. But when I see all these videos, and they're all like, ITN this week have really pissed me off. ITN is one of the news agencies over here in the UK, and they've been putting videos up, and it's been like, well, North Korea has tested some sort of bomb in this area, and it's 6 explosions, and blah blah blah, and South Korea has said this, and America has said that, and blah blah blah. And I'm just like, shut the fuck up. You know? Do you know how many bombs get tested every single week that goes unreported because it's done in America or it's done in the UK, but because it's North Korea, oh my god, go and shit your pants? Get the fuck off. So, yes, but there was also majorly good news in the UK this week because gay marriage is actually getting a little bit further. For those of you that don't know about the political system over here in the UK, there's kind of like 3 stages that this will actually have to go through, 3 main stages. The first one, you got the House of Commons. Now, when the bill was first voted on in the House of Commons, it's debated on for 2 days, then it's voted on the second day. The vote came back with a result of like so many hundred for it, and I think it's something like 17 against it or something like that. Now, it was then voted on, you know, kind of what rights would go with that and what would happen and when it would be next debated on and what would happen and all this sort of thing. So there was quite a few votes on the actual day. And then for literally a while, kind of nothing seemed to be happening. It's all behind the scenes kind of stuff. And then there was what we called the third reading of it, which is kind of the final version of the bill that they're going to put forward onto the next stage. So the final bill came in, and there are elements to it that I can disagree with, but you know, I kind of think it is a massive step forward. It's a step in the right direction, so let's just keep going with it for now. We can sort the rest out later. So the bill got voted on, but this time it had odds because there was over 100 that voted against it and not really loads more that voted for it, but it got passed, so it was good news. The next part of that is then it goes from the House of Commons, it goes over to the House of Lords. Now, the House of Lords have already announced 3 dates that this topic is going to be debated on or voted on. You know, it's going to be brought up kind of thing. That is the... Let me try and get this right. I think it's the 3rd of June, the 17th and the 19th. Which is ironic that it's up on the 19th because that is my birthday. So I'm kind of happy with that. So it's going to go through the House of Lords. Now, the House of Lords is kind of... It's not something really to have loads of confidence in. I mean, I do think that opinions have changed a lot, that, you know, this thing could still go through, but I know that the House of Lords are kind of... A lot of them are stuck in their old-fashioned ways. And, you know, change like that can be a big deal for them. So this could take a while going through the House of Lords, but it's going to go through there, and they will vote on it. They will see if they need to make any more changes, blah, blah, blah. The next step, once it's passed from the House of Lords, is it goes on to the Queen, or the royal family, shall I say. Now, I think as of yet, the Queen is actually yet to state her opinion on this. Which, I mean, it is rare for the Queen to state her opinions on political things like that, even though that she is involved in the political system quite heavily. But I do know from having, you know, looked into this, she does appreciate the opinions of her family, and certain members of the royal family have spoken out in support of gay marriage. So I'm kind of thinking the Queen will pass it. On to a couple of the things that I would change. You've got to look at... I mean, yeah, okay, it's going through gay marriage. By the end of it would be legal. But then you've got to look at, is it completely equal? And when you look into it, like, grounds for divorce... Well, if your same-sex partner cheats on you with a person of the same sex, that isn't grounds for divorce. Shocking, isn't it? But that wouldn't be. Basically, to sum it up, when marriage was first created, marriage was genuinely between 2 people or two consenting adults, and that's all it was. It wasn't gender specific. There was a new version of the law that got brought in, I think it was in 1972 or 76, it's around that era, and that did actually say people of the same sex cannot get married, and these are going to now be classed as grounds for divorce, blah blah blah, and there was loads of amendments made to it. So we've basically been living with this 70s amendment to marriage, and what this current bill is going to be putting through is for same-sex people. It's going to refer back to like the 1940s law, where a person cheating on you with the same sex isn't grounds for divorce. it's kind of a little bit messed up like that, but there we go. So if the gay marriage goes through, it's going to be a great thing. If it doesn't, then okay, because there are parts of the bill that need to get changed. But even if it does go through, we are still going to push for this change and make it completely equal. And until it is completely equal, then we're just not going to be stopping. Ha ha ha! Excuse me while I have a drink. Oh god, that's better. Wait for it. There we go. Do excuse me. My lack of morals. Okay, so I am going to have to talk about this, which is kind of depressing. The time that I'm actually recording this is on the Thursday afternoon, the 23rd. Yesterday, on the 22nd, there was an attack which has made news worldwide, which is to do with what happened in Woolwich in London, or South East London, should I say. Basically, the details from what I can gather is that the police were first called to an incident in which a man was basically going crazy with a machete. A machete's like a kind of knifey, swordy thingy. What appears to actually have happened is outside some army barracks in the area, a soldier has come out and he's been run over, and then from having been run over, they've then basically started on him with the machete on his body, and then it looks like they've gone for his throat and they've basically tried to decapitate him. Now, as if that isn't bad enough, this was done at just after 2 o'clock in the afternoon. This is in broad daylight, in front of kids, in front of women, in front of men, just in front of everyone. Now, to add insult to injury, the killers actually stayed in the area. They didn't flee the scene. They stayed around. People were videoing them. They were saying things on the video. It was... I can't even begin to describe how nasty it is. I think nasty is kind of the only way that I can describe it. It's vile. I mean, one of the things that they said is that they did that attack because we've got soldiers over in like Iraq and Iran and Afghanistan and all these places, and they want the soldiers out of the country. And I do kind of have to agree with them on that point, because I don't ever see why we put soldiers over there in the first place. I, for one, never actually believed that there was weapons of mass destruction in these places, But we had Tony Blair in the UK, we had George W. Bush in America, and the pair of them got together, and they were basically hell-bent on doing this. They were hell-bent on starting a war. That's basically how it is. They told us that we were to expect these weapons of mass destruction, and Saddam Hussein was planning this, and so-and-so was going to do that. If you remember rightly, just before we went to war, the United Nations went into the country, and they had a look round, and they were going, we've not found any weapons of mass destruction. There is no need for you to come over here. We've no concerns about it. But no, we still went in, all guns blazing. And look at the mess that we've got ourselves in now. So I can kind of see where they're coming from with that point. But just because I share that point with them isn't to say that I'm going to go and do an attack like that, or that I actually think an attack like that is actually going to solve anything, because it won't. That soldier's lost his life. I mean, the soldier's at home. He's not even in one of these places. You don't know his point of view. He could well have been, the same point of view as me, going, well, why am I being sent over there? It's just absolutely crazy, and I don't see why it actually took place. I don't see the mentality that these men were in, thinking, well, if we go and decapitate a soldier, then we're gonna be able to prove this point, and blah 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 blah. And it's like, well, no. Now, the other thing that is to do with that attack is the fact that a lot of people afterwards have turned to hating religion for it. In particular, the Muslim faith. Now, I do talk to a few people who follow the Muslim religion. They have it as a faith. They basically follow the traditions of the Muslim life to a certain extent. A little bit like anyone else follows religion. You know, some people are heavily involved in it, some not so much. It's just, religion fits into people's lives where they've got time for it these days. I know from having spoken to them that there is nothing in any of their scriptures, in anywhere in the religion, that says if you feel you're being hard done by, or if someone's doing you wrong, go and blow yourself up, or go and decapitate a soldier. There is nothing that actually says that in the Muslim faith. Yet for some reason yesterday my Facebook was full of these nasty comments saying get all the Muslims out of the country, send them back to their own home, do this, do that. And it's like, no, I'd rather have you deported, actually. When it comes to the people who actually carry out these attacks, you need to understand that the second part of their title is extremists. You seem to be missing that bit off, because the extremists actually don't follow the Muslim religion. They follow kind of their own version of it. It isn't what Muslim children get taught. It isn't what people get raised to do. It's just their own bullshit. But it's the same with any extremist. There's Christian extremists, there's Muslim extremists, there's Islamic extremists, there is Jewish extremists. There's extremists for everything these days, and I am kind of bored of them. But you can't penalise the whole religion just because what the extremists are doing, because it's only when the extremists of your faith that you follow, if you follow a faith, it's only when them extremists kick off that you're going to turn around and go, actually, no, they're not representing my religion. If you're an atheist, have a look at someone who's been an absolute shit, who has gone out and killed loads of people and that sort of thing. Does he represent you because you don't have any faith? Does he? Exactly. So to turn around and say we need to get rid of all these Muslim people and everything like that, I actually think we're completely wrong, or anyone who says that is completely wrong. And I actually think that now is the perfect time for people to look into the Islamic faith, to look into just different ways of life, different meanings of religion, all this sort of stuff. We need to look into it. The main example that I can give here as to why this is so racist is because during the attack yesterday, it was said that the attackers, while carrying out the attack, were chanting Islamic words. It's not said exactly what they were saying, but they were heard saying Islamic things. So that's why people have got the religion involved there. If we skip back a little bit and we go back to the 90s, when the IRA were blowing everywhere up, basically, they tried to target Margaret Thatcher. There was a bomb that went off in Manchester. I think the IRA did Warrington as well. They basically just blew everywhere up. Now, during those attacks, did anyone turn around and go, well, that's them crazy Catholics, they're all bad, get them out the country, blah, blah, blah. Did we do that? Did we? No. And did the IRA represent the religion? No. So who's to say that these extremists are representing the Muslim religion or the Islamic? I don't get where people's mentalities come from with this, and it's just absolutely pathetic. But yeah, that's basically where it is. So, I think I may well have said it before. I actually can't remember exactly what I've said in this, but basically, the attacks should never have happened. I have the deepest sympathy for the soldiers' friends and family. It's just one of them attacks where words genuinely fail me, because there isn't anything that you can actually say about it, really. It's just one of them things, and it's breathtaking, in all honesty. The next thing that is to do with that, of course, is what happened later on last night, as it now is. There is a group in the UK which are commonly called EDL. Basically, it stands for the English Defence League. The EDL is an organisation which is the sham of the UK. It's shameful. I genuinely have no time for them and a lot of their members. The group is made up of football hooligans. One of the leaders of the organisation is a registered paedophile. Another one of the leaders actually got sentenced to, I think it's 10 months in prison, because he was found travelling to the United States with a false passport. It's just basically a stupid group, but the reason that they were set up was to oppose Sharia law coming into the UK. Sharia law has never been a threat to the UK, if I'm honest with you, or coming in to be an actual law here. There might well have been somewhere along the line someone's gone, we should have Sharia law in this country, but they're more than entitled to voice their opinion. It's one man saying it. So there we go. But so a couple of hours after this attack had actually taken place and while the news was still kind of coming through, the EDL tweeted to their members to meet up in Woolwich. Later on in the evening, I think there's still video footage of it online. You can still see footage of the EDL members all with their faces covered, basically charging at police, throwing bottles at them, just basically doing what the EDL do, causing shit when no one actually wants it. And I've come into battle with EDL and their members so many times. I'm actually blocked on Twitter by the official EDL account because for, I think it must have been the best part of 5 hours, I was just constantly arguing with them. And a lot of people were agreeing with me in what I was actually saying, because the EDL has this thing of, if you're not white and you go and do something like that, then you're obviously a Muslim and Muslims ought to be deported and blah blah blah, and it's just basically really racist shit that they put out. So that's why I genuinely have a problem with them, and will still continue to have a problem with them, and obviously debate that with them. So yeah, so the EDL came out, and the more shame was brought on them, really. But on the plus side, it did actually generate quite a funny picture for me this morning, because you've got EDL, which is the letters EDL, and we've actually got a gas and electric company over here in the UK called EDF, which stands for Energie de France. Now, EDL is obviously spelled different to EDF, but not so much for people on Twitter, because a lot of people during the night were tweeting EDF Energy, saying about how they were racist, that they were wrong for going to Woolwich and doing the attacks, and blah 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 blah. So this morning, EDF actually replied to a lot of the people saying, I think you mean the English Defence League, EDL, we're EDF. So it is actually quite a funny picture, I've got to say. But yeah, that's basically it. That's my vlog. Not vlog, what are we calling this? Podcast. That's my podcast for this week. I am going to have to write down podcast for next week, and just so as I can actually remember, what the fuck I'm recording. But yeah, so that's basically it from me. So thank you very much for listening. Like I said, please do keep your questions coming in. On Twitter, it's @SignBevLive. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/VivaLaBev. All of the links and that can be found on the homepage of the Fanny LaRue channel on YouTube. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll speak to you guys next week, if not before.